Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast. I am your host, Donny Coram, and this is the show where we discuss how to find, figure, fund, fix, and flip a foreclosure deal with a minimum guaranteed profit of $25,000. Now, semi-obviously, this is a real estate show, but what a lot of people don't understand is that foreclosure flipping and flipping in general is a means to an end. It's an income generator designed to get you from where you are to where you ultimately want to be. And I am super honored today to have Brian O'Neill on the show. Brian is a reformed real estate guy who's now on the other side of the real estate potential where he's starting to exit his real estate business. Now, why would I bring a guy on who's trying to get out of real estate while I'm encouraging people to get in? Because once again, when you understand the overall path of how foreclosure flipping can help you to get to your ultimate goal and vision, you'll find more value in what we offer here in the content and on the show. Without further ado, let's get Mr. Brian O'Neill on the stage. Brian, what is up, man? How you doing?
Donnie, that's great, man. I love it. Good to be on the show. Love the energy. I'm excited to chat with you and your audience today.
So excited to have you, man. Let's jump right in. You are a reformed real estate guy. Talk to me about what you've done in the real estate space. How did you build it to the point where you're able to exit the real estate industry? Tell me about that a bit.
Yeah, so back in 2019, I had a 25-year sales career. I was in corporate America, 17 years with the same job. I was an elevator salesman. So
Are you
anybody
an
listening,
elevator salesman?
elevator salesman, right? So anyone thinking that you need to be in a certain industry to get into real estate, nothing could be further from the truth. Other than buying and selling my primary residence, I had zero experience getting into real estate. But I had identified it as you said in your intro, a means to an end. I wanted out of my job. I wanted out of my life. I had tried a bunch of different side hustles. I mean, you can think of it, you name it. I tried it and
Sure.
I wasn't able to move the needle, right? I was just stuck, and there's a lot of reasons behind that, but I was able to get out of my job with real estate. Okay. Number one, because I was in a place where I had had enough of my life, right? I'd had enough of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. So in 9 months, after trying on my own, now I got in a mastermind, I got a coach, I got around the right people. In 9 months, I was able to do enough deals to almost replace my income. I had a high income, but I was able to do enough deals during COVID, by the way, one of the most tumultuous times for real estate.
Yep.
2020, September of 2020, I left my job. So I had accomplished my
Incredible.
goal. And in 18 months, I had 2.5 times my income. So I had made it. And I mean, that's how I got involved into real estate. And I'll give it back to you. And
Yeah.
if you want to ask any
We'll
follow-ups.
unpack that a bit more, but I love that story. The idea that people are trying to exit. A lot of my clients come to me on the coaching space
Mhm.
and they're looking to exit their existing job, and real estate is an excellent vehicle to do so, right? What education, what background did you get to make that transition, or did you just jump in and do it on your own, or how did you? Well, first of all, were you doing fix and flips? What was the market that you were in to double your income?
Great question. I was very niche, so I landed on here are my fears, right? Here are my stated fears, which are all just stories I told myself. So I was afraid to invest my own money, which I had, and I was afraid to ask other people to invest money alongside of me, right? I was
Okay.
afraid to lose money. So I'd kind of been dabbling on my own in apartments, syndicate, buying apartments, looking at single family. I was looking
Okay.
at deals, acting like an investor, but not really doing any deals.
Sure.
And it was around that time where I had heard somebody talking about buying properties with no money down, creative financing.
Okay.
And that solved the problem of money. So I don't need any money.
Right.
So I went to that. I went all in. I joined a mastermind. I got coached. And because I was coached and following a system and I went all in one thing and stayed in that lane,
Love it.
that's why I was able to have success in a short amount of time. So it was very specific, right? And I think that a lot of new real estate investors make the error of thinking, well, I'll do a little bit of fixing and flipping. I'll do the Bird method. I'll
Try
do some
everything.
rehabs. It's like, and then you end up doing nothing. So
That's right.
singular focus was the reason I was able to get out.
I love that. And that really is the essence of my coaching program. So I'm so glad you brought that up. It's a good lead in. We're doing a single foreclosure flip. You're going to buy a deal. We're going to find it, figure it, fund, fix and flip it. You're going to make a $25,000 profit. It's a very singular focus on one part of the market. And then after that, you started to diversify, right? Once you figure out the single focus, what did you transition to after the singular focus with your mentorship?
Yeah, I stayed pretty much in that lane for the entire time. Now I just did different types of deals. Like I
Okay.
started off with doing a lot of options, like lease options or a
Yep.
lease purchase, they're called. And then I transitioned to more of an ownership piece where I was buying properties either on owner financing, seller financing, or I would do subject to, or I just had outright ownership because I wanted the
Mhm.
benefits of ownership and not having to deal with the seller.
That makes sense. Yeah. So I mean, you learned one part of the process. You repeated that process 2.5 times your income. You're obviously doing well financially. What prompted the transition? At what point did you realize this was not your long-term future? That you were not going to stay in real estate?
Yeah, and it really started to occur probably at 2.5 years in, and then there was on the flip side of that too, Donnie, is I started getting pulled in another direction because I was around people that really resonated with my story, my success, and it inspired them. So I started getting the itch, like, hey, I can do this with more people. Like
Yeah.
this stuff that I'm talking to people about really is impacting their lives. This isn't just about real estate. This is about changing people's lives.
Wow.
So
I love that.
I just didn't like the fact that there were so many things that I could not control,
Mm-hmm.
out of my control. Now,
Mm-hmm.
am I a control freak? Sort of,
Maybe.
maybe, right?
I don't pick up that vibe, but I can live with that.
And Donnie, I just honestly became to the point where I've got it's all you're even though you have systems in place, you have people working for you, and you have a lot of I had a lot of guards up, right? When someone has water leaking through their house at 10
We're
o'clock at
upset.
night, like, you gotta deal with it.
Got to
Doesn't
deal
make
with
any doesn't make any difference, and I just got to
it.
the point where it's like, "Hey, this is not what I signed up for."
And I love that. And I think I hit that reality. We did 47 flips in a year, right? And it's like you hit the phase where the money is awesome. You're buying all the toys. You should be enjoying life, but you realize you're just not. Right? And that's an interesting thing about that transition out, where it's like you thought money was going to satisfy. How many times have we heard that ad? It's like money is not the key to happiness after all, right? So you make the money in real estate, but then you realize pretty early on that you lack control. That's a
Yeah.
huge thing, and I totally agree with that. And that you're not really happy doing what you're doing. So it's interesting you found that after 2.5 years, and it started to transition out. What's now? I mean, now that you've finished you've done the real estate investing world, you're just not doing deals ever again. Are you're completely exiting it, or what's your opinion for what's gonna happen next?
When I decided I wanted to exit, let me I'll just say this too for anyone who's listening out there, like making a decision, even if it's the wrong decision, because a lot of times we make the wrong decision.
Don't we all?
There's so much power in that.
Amen.
And for me to just say, "Hey, look, this isn't for me." And I blocked out everybody that told me, no, like, no, this is just part of the
It's a
business. I said,
phase,
well, this
right?
is part of the business and I don't want any
Right,
part of the business. So
right, right.
yeah. So number one, I decided, and I reserve the right to change my mind. So if I
Thank you.
decide I want to get into real estate later,
That's
that's
right.
fine. But I just started transitioning away. And as I sold properties off, it validated
How you're
my
feeling.
how I felt, because it's like,
Yep.
wow, I feel it's lighter and lighter and lighter, and I'm down to like a
Absolutely.
handful of properties left now. I'm almost done, and it frees up the bandwidth for me to do the stuff that I
You want
wanted,
to
that
do.
I'm doing right now, that I'm continue to doing now.
Yeah. So you've jumped into coaching. Obviously, we're both coaches in a different space, obviously. But what is your coaching about? How do you help people make this transition that you have?
Yeah. So, I mean, sure, there are some people who want to transition away from real estate, but it's mainly folks who are, I like to refer to my avatar, my ideal client, as the younger version of me. I'm 50 years old. I spent the majority of my 30s and 40s in a W 2 job trying to break out, right? Looking at different side hustles. And if I could turn back the clock, I had ignored, and most people do this, right? They don't like their job, they don't like their situation, and they are looking at learning a brand new skill like
Hmm.
real estate or
Right.
franchising or trading stocks or all these other things. And one of their biggest block is, hey, I don't have enough time. I got a
That's right.
busy life. If they don't look what's right under their nose, which is I was a sales guy for 25 years. I completely discounted the fact that I could have taught people how to sell or gone to
Sure.
businesses and
Sure.
done that. So I look at helping people utilize what they have, their superpower, and turning it into a business, because that is the fastest path, in my opinion, to earn money right now.
Well, how long have we been told that you pursue your passions, you never got to work a day in your life, right?
That's
And
right.
and, and at what point did real estate, when it became a job, like you realize I'm not passionate about this. Now you got to figure out what the exit strategy looks like. And so many people, real estate or otherwise, like you said, they end up in a position because they got to pay the bills. They realize it's not what they want to do with the rest of their life, but there's really no clear plan to transitioning from one career to a next, especially in the entrepreneurial space. Right?
Yeah.
Are a lot of your clients entrepreneurs now in the like real estate and other things? Are they job based, or how do you find your clientele there?
The majority of them are higher income earners.
Okay.
They have, and the block for them is they don't think that they can replace their income, their W-2 income, with business income. And that takes some convincing and belief. And
It
I
sure
felt the
does.
same way. I was making a couple $100,000 a year in my
Right.
W-2, and I'm like, I'm never going to be able to make this kind of money.
Right. On your own. But
Totally
what a,
wrong.
what a misconception, right? When you realize it's actually easier to make money outside of the workforce. 'Cause if you're making 200 grand in a corporate job, that means the company's got to be making $1 million or more on your effort. They're
That's
not
right.
paying you that because they like you, right? So obviously, if the company can do it, then you certainly can. But there is a mental block there. I think in the real estate space, part of the issue is the time frame between paychecks, the
Mhm.
gap that you're going to get between flips. How did you manage that as opposed to how you teach your clients to manage that gap in income as they transition out of that day job?
Yeah, I remember it probably took me like 6 months to get my first real estate check, and it was small. It wasn't large.
Hmm.
And then they got larger and larger and larger. But when you can utilize, I'll give you an example. I have a client that I coach one to one, and he does part of it. He does financial services for a nonprofit organization. One of the things he does is bookkeeping. Doesn't like his job, but doesn't dislike bookkeeping. A lot of
Right.
people associate their job, like all of it, with the work,
Yes.
right? Because,
Yes.
my boss, the commute, all this stuff is like, hey, let's separate that. And
Hmm.
so he took bookkeeping, and that's a service everybody needs.
Yes.
Got his first client in 2 weeks. Got
Okay.
his has 3 clients within a month. And you don't have to learn a new skill. You just have to learn how to run a business.
Yes.
So much faster when you're utilizing what you're good at and just taking it to market and going to find clients, which in the beginning is all you need to do. People
That's right.
overcomplicate business.
That's right. Go find clients. That's the hardest part of the entrepreneurial journey I found, right? Is I'm like, even when I was transitioning from flipping to coaching, right? I
Yeah.
knew how to find deals. I still know how to find deals. I'm good at that. But when you transition that mindset, you need to find people willing to pay you for that, whatever your skill set or passion is. That's a huge mental shift. Do you work with people on the marketing side to get the clientele? What do you focus a lot of energy on procuring clients for the new?
Yeah, all of it. That's all we talk about in the beginning. After we identify what the business is, hey, what are we going to do? Because believe it or not, Donnie, most people that tell themselves, hey, the reason I'm stuck is time or money or how other people are going to think if I fail. The biggest block as to why people stay in their jobs and don't start businesses is they don't know what business to start. That is overwhelmingly number one. I've been researching this for years.
I agree with that.
Once you get past that, then it's just a matter of, hey, I just got to, people don't know who you are.
Right. You got to get the word out. Right.
Yeah.
And now it's separating the noise, like making yourself distinctive. There's a bunch of real estate agents, there's a bunch of accountants, there's a bunch of bookkeepers. Why do
Mhm.
you want to work with me? And that's a hard thing because when you work for somebody else, the employer is the face, right? You're used to the branding that comes from whoever employs you. When you have to become the branding, that's a big shift in your head, right? People get nervous about that.
They do. They do. They get nervous about it, and it's totally understandable. But once you start networking and you see
Mhm.
the momentum going, you don't give up. People are going to know about you eventually, right?
Absolutely. And you're building that momentum. The more success stories you get, the more you help people in whatever industry you're offering your services in, the easier that process becomes, testimonials and et cetera. We just opened a flooring store, and it's funny, you talked about transitioning out. I was transitioning from flipping houses to coaching. My wife now was transitioning from flipping houses to we bought a flooring store.
Mm.
Right. And she's got a ton of business experience because she's been an agent for 20 plus years. So she knows the industry inside and out. But even shifting to a different business or mindset has been a real struggle for her. We're still kind of working through it now. What advice do you give people when they're first getting started out? You said go out and get clients. Do you have a process you're following specifically? Here's the client attraction process, or are you tailoring that based on the
Yeah.
industry?
So the first thing I tell anyone who's in a 9 to 5 job who thinks that they don't have ability, who am I to charge people for stuff? And I just simply give them this very simple mindset hack, which is how much money do you make for your job, right? And,
Yeah.
and I'll just give an example here. Well, I make $100,000.
Okay.
I'm like, the next time you look at your paycheck, I want you, instead of being depressed and looking at it and saying, wow, they take a lot of money out for taxes and insurance and all this
Okay.
stuff. I want you to look at that as someone thinks that you're worth $100,000 a year and they're paying you $100,000 a year. Your employer is a customer. They are paying you to do a job. And guess what? You weren't the only one who interviewed for that job.
They had options.
They had options. And if you got
Yep.
promoted at your job, likely you weren't the only one.
That's right.
So the next time you doubt yourself, think, I got one customer that's paying me 100 grand a year. Do you think you could go find 3, 4, 5 more customers to do the same exact job that would pay you a portion of that 100 grand? What if they pay you 50? If you get 5 people that pay you 50 grand a year to do that,
You're at a great spot.
nobody thinks that way.
It's hard to think that way. You got to remember, we were programmed from day one at kindergarten, go to work for 8 hours a day, do what you're told, go home, right? Get a degree, and then go to the workforce. I mean, you think about how the country was founded, it's just really not designed on those principles where the idea is offering value to the company. It's about collecting a paycheck. So I love that you're in that transition. So people can obviously meet with you at www.w2prisonbreak.com. They can sign up with you as a consultation call basis to talk about their transition plan. Walk me through the client interaction process to get started.
Yeah, I mean, you can book a call with me for free. It's like right on my website. So if you go in
Excellent.
there, you can book a 15-minute call, and I just want to have an understanding of like, hey, where are you right now? What's your biggest roadblock? And then we put a plan together in terms of, hey, what you could potentially do for a job, for a business, because again, number one block is I don't know what business to start, right?
Right.
And
Right.
I know that too when they say to me, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And they'll name some industry like affiliate marketing or real estate or
Okay.
something else, and I'll say, "Well, what do you do for work right now? Why are you asking me that question?"
Okay.
You
Trying to get to the
know?
bottom of that.
Yeah.
And then people you help them build the path. That's amazing. Brian, I think there's such a huge value what you offer, because a lot of people are looking for that next direction. I feel like in my coaching program, I'm getting them into real estate, but I really try to explain to them on day one, this is only the starting point. This is only the beginning of what you're looking for. I just wanted to load the website so everybody could see it. But guys, I'd love for you to head out here, schedule a time with Brian, and learn about how he can help you to break out. What do you think? I mean, I think there's an obvious answer here, but what holds people back from making this move? What do you think the leading thing clients come to you who can't make the move? What stops them the majority of the time?
Yeah, they don't know. They can't see it. They can't see the end of it. Certainty. People crave certainty. This
Yes.
is what I've discovered, and the reality of your 9 to 5 job. While it might be certain today, you can walk into work tomorrow and it's taken away from you without warning for no reason
It happens
whatsoever.
all the time. Like if
Yeah.
people are like, I have a stable job. What does that mean? Somebody else signs your paycheck. How could that be stability? Like, this is the only way to take life into your own hands is the entrepreneurial spirit. But that's a real thing. That feeling of I'm out on my own and developing that spirit. How long do you think it takes people? And this is a tough question, but from a mindset perspective, what's the time frame for the shift in your experience?
Oh, if you're doing it on your own, it could be decades, right?
Yeah,
Especially with men, because most of us are egotistical and we don't think
sure.
we don't need anybody's help, right?
Right.
But once you start hanging around with different people who don't have a W-2 mindset, that's going to help you. And I always encourage that. Like whether it's a paid group or just a Facebook group or whatever it is, like get away from the people that want to stay in their W-2 until they're 65.
Right.
Get away from that
Right.
If you truly want to change the way that you think, you got to get around people that think differently.
100%.
That
Yeah.
that that's the that, look, this is simple. Like the steps are simple. It's hard, but it's simple once you get into it. The people that have gotten it, that have succeeded with me, and that I coached in a real estate mastermind that I was a part of for many years, they figured this simple thing out, which is, and the corporations know this. Corporate needs you more than you need them.
Yep.
100%.
100%.
Most people think the opposite. Like, hey, I need these guys. Like the company goes out of business if you're not working for them, right?
That's it. They need people to run.
They do.
And the people, they undervalue themselves. I think it's a big part of that. I've seen that people come in thinking, like you said, they're already paid you 100 grand a year, which means you add at least that amount of value and probably a multiplier of that. So clearly, like you said, other people would pay you that to do the services you render. Why can't you provide those services on your own, like even for half of what the corporation is paying you? If you had 5 clients paying you half, you'd be making 2.5 times as much money. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, like I said, it's an easy formula. It's just hard for people to wrap their heads around that concept.
What about the people who are afraid of the security instruments that corporate keeps you baited with, like health insurance and that kind of thing? How do you bypass that mindset to get them out of that?
Yeah, so I'll answer that in two parts. And I love the question. Number one is it's nothing more than an excuse. That's all it is. Okay,
Well said.
we create stories as to why we can't do stuff or why we're not good enough, and I'll comment on that if you want, because I figured
Please.
it out years later as to, because I said the same stuff. As a business owner, I pay less in health insurance for the same exact coverage than
Yeah,
when I was employed.
without a
Okay.
doubt.
It doesn't matter. And I would gladly pay 3 times as much
To not have to work for somebody else.
to not have to work. I'll just give you a quick story here. My son plays travel baseball in the summer,
Okay.
and we have some travel that's coming up. We're going to be gone for 3 weeks. I'm self-employed. My wife's self-employed, and we're going to go all over the place. And I don't have to ask anybody's permission to do it.
Thank you. Thank
How
you.
how many of you out how many out there in a 9 to 5 would have to beg and plead and
Thank
borrow
you.
to get 3 weeks
Absolutely.
straight?
Absolutely. And again, you're in a business where you can do this from anywhere. It's coaching, right? They don't
Sure.
they don't need your physical presence. There's so many businesses now. The gig economy has created so much, and coronavirus, whatever the reasons were, but we're used to operating at work on Zoom calls. Like we're interacting right now. So, like you
Yeah.
said, that is just an excuse. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm going to get sick and then I won't have health care. First of all, you can get health care. And secondly, you're right. It will almost always cost less as an individual plan that it's going to cost on your own. People they doubt that. They doubt that capability.
Yep, they do. I'm glad you brought that up.
I love that. Last piece, retirement. How do you get out of, I'm also a registered investment advisor. I just passed my Series 65 license, so I'm not like officially licensed with the SEC. But how do you coach people through setting up for a time when they don't want to work anymore, when they leave the workforce entirely? What's the preparation that your coaching offers there?
Yeah. So again, your business is the 401k. If I can't tell you enough how I got all my money out of my 401k when
Okay,
I was in my job. Like I took everything out, I put it
remove it.
into a self-directed account so I can invest in things that I want. I still invest in real estate. I mean, just because I'm not buying my own properties, I'm still investing in
Mhm.
other people's deals. I do that. I loan money to people. So there's ways to build wealth that are not just related to real estate. Your
Absolutely.
business, if you can build a profitable business, that's something you can sell. That's
Yes.
retirement right there. That's something you can pass off
Hmm.
to your family, right? You can take the business proceeds, you can either invest them back into the business, or you can invest in stuff like I was interviewing a guy earlier, land. You can
Hmm.
buy land, you can buy real estate in a passive way, a truly passive
Yes.
way where you're just earning a return. So many different ways to do it. I just think that your number one focus should be your business. and then think of all the different ways when you start collecting income, right? Your active income, how can you send that out, right?
Diversify it elsewhere. And I love that you bring that up in the passive real estate investment. Like on the foreclosure flipping, that's the essence of my product.
Mhm.
It's a big thing where you place money into a fund, if you will. We do the flip for you. You keep the proceeds, but you maintain your day job, your 9 to 5, or the business that you're running while you're doing it. So there are lots of passive real estate investment vehicles out there that don't require that you pick up a hammer or have to show properties as an agent or all those things that take up all that massive amounts of time. It's just
Yeah.
a matter of repositioning your thinking on that, which is why obviously you figured it out and got out of the industry and figured out how to make money outside of the industry. Um, I guess parting thoughts on this, Brian. This has been great. I think we've gotten a lot out of this. I'm super excited about people reaching out to you and getting that transition plan into the coaching plan. What would you tell somebody who's nervous in general about making this transition? What would you give them as a word of wisdom to say to get into a passive real estate investment or to start looking at starting their own business in general in that capacity? What would you say to them today?
Yeah, I get this question asked a lot. The answer is usually pretty similar. And it's, look, if you want to get into real estate, if you want to start your own business, if you want to change, right? If you're in a situation that you don't like, your
Change it.
job, your relationship, whatever it is, and you're telling yourself that you don't like it, you feel like you don't like it. This is my advice to everyone. All right. If you want your life to be different, you got to do something different.
There you go.
Do something different about it. Otherwise, quit talking about it
It's so
and
true.
learn to love the life that you have right
Amen.
now. I mean, it doesn't get any simpler than that.
It's you just got to take action. I'll never forget. I was working corporate America at HP and leaving my house, and we had a really steep driveway, and I slipped and like injured my ankle. And for a moment there, I was really hoping it was broken. Like a part of me kind of went, "Man, if I'm injured enough, I don't have to go to work today." And it was at that moment that I realized if you hate this job so much that you would rather be physically in pain than go to the job, it's time to quit the job.
Yeah.
Why do
Yeah.
people make that so complicated, man? Like, do something you love. I love that.
Yeah. I think maybe too, and I meant to say this earlier, and this is what I discovered, and it might hit people the wrong way, but sometimes people, this is the coach in me talking, is that all these things I told myself about, hey, what if I fail, and what are people going to say about me, or what if I
Mhm.
lose money, or what if I health insurance. The reality of it was this: I, Brian O'Neill, was not willing to do what was required to get out of the life that I said I didn't want. Period. End
Excellent.
of story. I was
Yep.
complacent. I was lazy. I was entitled. I was not willing to do the work.
Yep.
And once I got over that, that's how the 9-month window happened. So 10 to 15 years of me talking about it and pie in the sky stuff, and I'm better and I can do all this stuff. Once I got to the point where it's like, okay, hey, I'm not doing what's necessary, 9 months.
Yep. And really, it's when you make the decision, you are not that far off completely turning the transition. I'm doing deals with clients inside of 90 to 120 days. It's a matter of taking that first step. But I'm also reminding them that this is a transition plan and
Mhm.
you are 9 to 12 months from completely altering your life if you'll just take the initial steps. And this is a coaching show. So if it rubs them the wrong way, then they're listening to the wrong show, and I'm okay with that, right? But
That's right.
in the end, it's got to be, you got to get hit right between the eyes. And sometimes having a talk with a professional coach like yourself or myself in this space, it really opens that up. You just get smacked between the eyes once and you go, you're right. I got to take action. I think that's the huge value of what you offer people and why they should reach out. Let's wrap up. How'd you like people to reach out to you, Brian? We got w2prisonbreak.com. Would you prefer people who not to join you there?
That's the best place to go. Yes, sir.
I love it. So, guys, you heard it here. Let's join Brian. Find out how to transition from your 9 to 5 job. It's a great time to do it. The opportunities are there. Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, sir. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that we can stay in touch and talk about the transition plan to get people out of their 9 to 5s and into entrepreneurial endeavors like foreclosure, flipping, and other things. So incredible to have you. Thank you so much.
Right on. Thanks, Donnie.
Hey guys, you heard it here. There are opportunities out there, the ideas. You've got to take action, make the right choices. It's not going to happen for you. Okay. If you want to change your life, change your dimension, you are one contact. Reach out to Brian, learn about how his program works. And if you're ready to make that transition by doing foreclosure flips, this is a mean to an end. It's not a long-term career. It's a way to make the income that you need to help make that transition smoother. It's super honored to have a guy like Brian on the show. With that, guys, this is Donny Coram, your foreclosure deals coach. Thanking you so much for tuning in and reminding you now and always, don't buy a house, buy a deal.